One of your employees is late again. It's 5 minutes on Monday, it's 20 minutes on Wednesday, 30 minutes today. You've reminded them before, but nothing has changed. Now you're stuck between two bad options. Keep tolerating it and show the rest of your crew that the standard doesn't really matter, or you lose your temper and you fire someone that you've already invested time, money, and training into. But there's a third option. You can give the employee a fair opportunity to correct the problem while making it completely clear what will happen if they don't. Because a problem is not always that you've said nothing. The problem is that you've been hinting when you should have been correcting. Most business owners make one of two mistakes. First, they give casual reminders until they finally explode. Or they fire the employee without ever clearly explaining where they stood, what needed to change, or what the consequence would be. Either way, the situation becomes emotional, inconsistent, and much harder to manage. There is a better process. And for context, I have a master's degree in organizational psychology, and I spent 15 years recruiting, selecting, and assessing performance across some of the most technical and demanding occupations in the Canadian Armed Forces. One of the biggest things I learned is that performance problems become much easier to manage when the leader stops relying on hints and follows a clear process. A verbal warning, a written warning, and if the same behavior continues, a termination review. I call it the 3-strike framework. In this video, I'm going to show you what to say at every step, what you need to document, and one important rule that prevents this process from being used unfairly. I have also created a free printable version of the framework with the conversation prompts, verbal warning checklist, and both a written warning and termination template. You can download it using the link below and give it directly to your foreman or leadership team. Before we start, this framework is designed for 95% of your ordinary everyday performance and conduct issues. It is not meant to replace your company policies, employment agreements, or professional advice. Serious misconduct or major safety concerns may require a different response. Now, let's walk through it using repeated lateness as the example. You have a general laborer who continues arriving late. Sometimes it's only a few minutes. Other times, the rest of the crew is standing around waiting to leave for the job site. You've clearly communicated the start time. The employee understands what is expected. They've received several casual reminders, but the behavior continues. So at this point, stop hinting. It's time to make the correction official. Strike one. The verbal warning. A verbal warning is not yelling at someone across the site. It is private, professional conversation that makes 3 things clear: what happened, what must change, and what will happen if it does not. Before the conversation, prepare the facts. Don't say you're always late. That's vague, emotional, and it's really easy to argue with. You want to say you arrived after your scheduled start time on Monday, Wednesday, and again today. Then explain the standard and why it matters. Our crew needs to leave for the job site at 7 a.m. When you arrive late, everyone else is delayed. We lose productive time and the job starts behind schedule. Next, confirm that the employee actually understands the expectation. Ask them, has the start time been clearly explained to you? And do you understand what being ready for 7 means? Listen to their response. There may be a misunderstanding or an issue that you didn't know about. Next, state exactly what must change. Starting tomorrow, I expect you to be here prepared and ready to leave by 7 a.m. That's not pulling up into the parking lot at 7. It is ready to leave at 7. Finally, explain the consequence. If this happens again, within the next 90 days, the next step will be a written warning. Then ask, is there anything you need clarified or any reasonable support you need in order to meet that expectation? And give them an opportunity to respond. After the conversation, document the date, the incidents discussed, the expectation you set, and the employee's response. It is still called a verbal warning because the warning was delivered in conversation. That does not mean that you should rely on your memory 3 months later. Then close the conversation positively and directly. I want you to succeed here, and I believe you can correct this. You now understand the expectation and what will happen if the issue continues. That is strike one. The employee knows what happened, what needs to change, and what comes next. And now they have the opportunity to correct it. All of these verbal prompts are written out in the attached PDF, so make sure that you download that so you're not going off memory. Strike 2, the written warning. If the same issue happens again within 90 days, you move to a written warning. Not another hint, not another frustrated comment, a formal written warning. And the warning should document the new incident, the date of the verbal warning, the expectation that was communicated, what must now change, and the consequence if the same issue happens again. For example, on May 3rd, we discussed repeated lateness and confirmed that you were expected to be prepared and ready to leave by 7 a.m. You were also advised that another occurrence within 90 days would result in a written warning. On May 17th, you arrived at 7:24 a.m. Then restate the expectation. Effective immediately, you are expected to arrive early enough to be completely prepared and ready to leave by 7 a.m. The employee should acknowledge that they received and understood the warning, either by signing the document or responding in writing. But don't stop at a signature. Ask them 3 questions. What do you understand the issue to be? What will you do differently? What specific steps will you take to make sure it does not happen again? Their answer might be, I will prepare my equipment the night before, set a second alarm, and leave home 20 minutes earlier. This matters because they are no longer only agreeing that there's a problem. They're taking responsibility for how they will correct it. You are also removing the excuse that they did not understand what was expected or how serious the situation has become. That's strike 2. The issue is documented. The employee has created a correction plan. The next consequence is clear. Strike 3, the termination review. If the same issue happens again within 90 days of the written warning, you have established a repeated pattern. The employee knew the standard. They confirmed that they understood it. They received a verbal warning. They received a written warning. They created a correction plan. They understood the possible consequence, and the same behavior continued. At that point, you move to a termination review. That doesn't mean that you make an impulsive decision on the job site. Review the documentation, the circumstances, your company policies, the person's employment or contract agreement, and your legal obligation. Get qualified professional advice when necessary. The framework does not remove those responsibilities. It gives you a clear history of what happened, what was communicated, and what opportunity the employee was given to correct it. The decision is no longer based on your frustration. It is based on repeated behavior that continued after clear expectations, support, correction, and documented warnings. This is usually the point where owners start lowering the standard. They tell themselves they're good workers most of the time. We're already short-staffed. I don't have time to train someone new. It's only a few minutes. Every time you lower a clearly communicated standard, the rest of your crew learns something. They learn that your warnings do not mean much. Your most dependable employees notice when they arrive on time, carry the workload, and follow the rules, while someone else receives chance after chance without changing. You may think that you're protecting the business by keeping one unreliable employee, but you may be slowly pushing away the people you can actually depend on. A strong corrective process protects both sides. It gives the employee a genuine opportunity to improve, but it also shows the rest of the crew that the company's standards apply consistently. Now, I want to talk to you about the same issue rule. There is one critical rule you need to understand. The 3 strikes must relate to the same type of issue. Repeated lateness is one category. Repeated quality problems may be another. Unprofessional conduct might be another. You cannot take one late arrival, one paperwork mistake, one disagreement with a supervisor, and combine them and automatically call that 3 strikes. A genuinely different issue normally begins with its own conversation and verbal warning. Think of each category as their own umbrella. Lateness is under one umbrella, work quality is under another, conduct is under another. However, multiple different issues can still reveal a larger pattern. Maybe the employee has been late several times, they ignore a process, then they miss a deadline, then they speak disrespectfully to a client. Those incidences may not count as 3 strikes under one category, but together they may raise a bigger question about reliability, judgment, or whether the person is a fit for the role. That broader decision should still be based on facts, documentation, your policies, and appropriate advice. The 3-strike framework is not about finding reasons to fire people. It is about correcting problems before frustration takes over. It ensures the employee always knows what is expected, where they currently stand, what they need to correct, and what will happen if they choose not to. Strong leaders don't avoid difficult conversations until they explode. They don't repeatedly threaten consequences that they're unwilling to enforce. And they do not surprise employees with decisions that were never clearly communicated. They address the issue early, they make the standard clear, they give the employee a fair opportunity to correct it. And when the behavior continues, they make a clean, documented decision. What you're going to want to do is download the free 3-strike framework using the link below. It's going to include the verbal warning checklist, written warning template, and manager conversation prompts so your leadership team can follow the same process every time. Then, subscribe to the channel because in the next video, I'm breaking down what happens to your most dependable employees when poor performance is repeatedly tolerated. Your standards are not defined by what you say. They are defined by what you repeatedly allow. If you want top talent, you have to become a company worthy of them. I'll see you on the next video.